next speaker is MacCallum, who's the co-founder, along with his wife, Jane Pointer, of Space Perspectives. Before he comes up, he wanted us to show a quick video.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
People can officially buy tickets to go to space.
A company in the United States
is offering tours
for people to fly to the edge of space.
With the world's most gentle voyage.
To take a trip to the final frontier in a space balloon.
That will give you a 360-degree view of Earth.
So the company Space Perspective is now taking reservations on
a luxury space balloon. It can ascend 20 miles into the Earth's upper atmosphere.
It is about the length of a football field
with a view that's out of this world.
A trip in the pressurized capsule
costs $125,000 a piece.
Their CEO, Jane Pointer, says they're now accepting reservations for these balloon space rides.
Wow, an extraordinary story.
That is a capsule under a balloon that takes you to the edge of space. You're absolutely right. It's a gentle way.
That experience of being relaxed in the window for hours, looking out at our planet, that's the quintessential astronaut experience.
Seeing Earth from space can cause this certain shift in awareness.
Your attention is on this thrilling view.
The incredible effect that this is going to have across the planet. We're envisioning taking thousands, hundreds of thousands, eventually millions to space.
So I'm just to talk about space tourism and spaceports. I think I want to make this a bit of a case study of sort of how we got to where we are, a bit of our background history, and then go through all this pretty quick so we can sort of get into questions about why we have made the decisions we've made, how we see spaceports. So you sort of get a view of, and everyone's different, of a story that I think is relevant to somebody in the business of creating and developing a spaceport. We're in the business of giving that view. Our customers are amazingly wide-ranging, from millennials to bucket listers, a lot of bucket listers. Our particular way of doing this is to not have a rocket. The rocket experience is, I'm sure, awesome. When we looked into this, and we had some of these really super high-end consulting firms look at a business case study for us. Getting rid of the rocket was the #1 thing on the survey. So we use a high-altitude balloon. These have been used since the 50s to go to above 100,000 feet or so. The basic ops is to launch from land, get to 100,000 feet, stay there for a couple of hours, spend another 2 hours coming back down and splash down. We did a test flight in June this year to verify the code that helps you figure out how to do that descent in a way that splashes down at the right velocity without needing to transition to a parachute. It's a strikingly difficult problem, but like 9,000 lines of code to figure this out. And it worked amazingly, and so that keyed off another round of funding for us, and so here we go. That's the fundamental Caucus. The background of people starting this company is pretty varied. It's also people from companies that I started. In fact, Paragon's Delta Corporation is one of them. Is exhibiting here this week, and they did a lot of work with the SpaceX capsule. We did with worldview drops, testing the parachutes. We've done work with the humidity control system on Boeing, thermal control system on Dream Chaser, a lot of work at Orion, unmanned platforms. And a lot of this really goes back to my and Jane Porter's experience in Biosphere 2. In the early 80s, Buckminster Fuller essentially double-dog dared us to build a biosphere. He'd written the book, Operating Manual for Spaceship Earth, and he said, we've got to learn how to build these things so we can understand and study them. And so Bucky got the Bass family in Texas to fund building a biosphere, and I was fortunately part of that program. He essentially has a wilderness that's in Arizona, still is, it's operating with the University of Arizona, with rainforest and ocean alike, and agriculture habitat, its own little world. This is it under construction. The volume is about 6 million cubic feet, about 3.5 acres in footprint, all lined in stainless steel, large variable volume chambers to take the expansion and contraction of the air inside. This is it completed in 91, and thus going in for 2 years and 20 minutes. And while we were inside, we grew all our own food, we recycled all our water, we had our own little world. We drank the same water over and over again, we ate the same carbon over and over again, and really got a sense of a tangible size, a small size of our world, but it was our entire world. And we really felt like we were on a base somewhere. And the Earth was far away out the window. This is us looking out the window after we went in. But when we compare that experience to astronauts who've seen the Earth from a distance, it's really striking how similar that experience was. We saw our world, astronauts see the world from orbit, and the takeaways that we got from that experience and astronauts get from that experience were also very similar. And of course, you know, in all that's happened, it's in the last decade especially, it's strikingly clear that that experience is an important experience for people to have. So that became essentially over time our quest to give that quintessential astronaut experience. And it is a lot about the Earth, it's a lot about space as well. And of course, Bill Andrews' quote is something we all know, but it's an amazing reminder of space having a lot of importance in seeing the Earth, and that's essentially the space tourism product is showing the Earth in a new way. And people's experience includes the spaceport. We'll get into that in a bit. It's that experience is what people, interestingly, it's on people's bucket list since there's a child. People say, I always dreamed of going to space. And it's the view, and of course our technical solution has to not distract from it. People aren't really that interested in the technology and the rocket or the balloon or the capsule. They're there for the experience. So our job is to make all that technology sort of fade into the background as fast as possible. As we began working on this, an opportunity was presented to us to do a human flight and break what was then the Red Bull record for people jumping from the edge of space. This really gave our team both experience in balloons and life support and thermal control, the whole cycle of taking somebody up. In this case, we were breaking skydiving records, so it was the major problem was the transonic stability of the suit coming back down and not getting into a state. A fun picture I like to show is the other major problem we had to fix was how do you land this big spacesuit that's got all the aerodynamics on it to life support. So we threw them out the back of airplanes with skydivers to figure out that sort of terminal portion of the flight. So it's not very often you'll see a spacesuit with rollerblades. That's what we got off the plane, and a skydiver with a person in a spacesuit falling through the air. But that was a lot of the work we had to do in rapid succession going through a series of basically human factors testing. This is him ascending to go to 136,000 feet. You see on the left that little spot at the bottom of the balloon is Alan in the suit, and everything above it is balloon. And of course, as the balloon ascends, the gas expands and the whole balloon fills up to be essentially, imagine that as the diameter of a circle That's how big the balloon is. This one has 11 million cubic feet. This is his view to the side of his helmet. And then this is us releasing him and the stabilization system. He went Mach 1.2 and did not spin at all on the way down. And this is him on the final approach, coming to a landing. So that gave us a lot of experience with human flight, ballooning, launch, the cadence, the ops. Now it's one thing to do a quick series. We did 3 flights in 21 days doing envelope expansion as we went up. It's a whole other thing operationalizing. We're going to do this regularly every week. That's a whole new kettle of fish over sort of a one-off, superhuman effort getting done kind of work. This is one of our latest graphics of what that looks like. It's people comfortably in a cabin. We did a lot of work on things like the design of the windows. It turns out vertical brakes in view are much more tolerable than horizontal brakes because your stereoscopic vision can sort of get around that vertical brake. But a horizontal brake is always, you can never sort of tilt your head around it. So we did a lot of work on the arrangement, the window arrangement, the structure of how this works. I've lost control,
Try now.
Awesome. So obviously the view from the inside, it's interesting. We had some actors. I'll show a video in a bit, and all we did was told them the story of the experience, and just hearing that story was an emotional experience for these people. So we got some amazing pictures of it. This is Jeff Hoffman, who is an advisor for us, and one of the things he talks about a lot is that he flew many times. He was on the Hubble repair mission. He was a storied astronaut. Actually flew with Story was great. He says he's forgotten all about microgravity. He can't really remember microgravity. And the launch was something that was sort of terrifying. He put up with, but wasn't special for him. The experience, the quintessential astronaut experience, and I did this over and over again, is hours staring out the window. That's what is the amazing experience. If you see this, even back to the 50s with high altitude balloon flights, there'll be a personal log and a data log, and very often people will jump over to the personal log and talk about things like Jupiter setting. There's an amazing series where the person is trying to figure out with color wheels what the colors that he's seeing are as Jupiter sets in this black sky slowly. Because you're there so long, you can see these sort of celestial events happen. You've got video of a sunrise slowly coming, and the perspective you get with the Earth and the Earth's shadow through that sunrise. These are the kinds of experiences that we can offer because we have time to get there. So on to the spaceport world. We recently announced that we'll be in Florida. There was a lot of states involved in that competition. We got a lot of great bids from spaceports. Space Florida led a great bid. The Department of Transportation, Brevard Economic Development, and the spaceports themselves really came together to put together a great package for us. And the package is all 3 spaceports. And in fact, environmental work is being done to fly from, for us to fly from all 3 spaceports. Spaceport really takes seriously the ecosystem of Florida and all the spaceports here. Cecil has amazing facilities. This is just putting up their new tower. They've got a rocket test facility, a hangar. It's a great set of facilities. And I'm going to talk a lot about facilities because in many respects, the next sort of generation, I think, of spaceport users are as much an economic development activity as they are a launch facility. That these spaceports incubate the companies. They need facilities to test a rocket. They need infrastructure. They need support in legislation. And, they need a lot of things. And so I think the winning spaceports are going to be the spaceports that provide, you know, initial infrastructure and then land for the next phase, that you can phase the growth of the company through and see how your company can be at that spaceport through phases of development. This is really going to be, I think, that next phase of spaceports. So as you think about investments, you know, what's your first set of offices for the incubator to come in? What's a set of labs that they can expand into? You know, where's that test stand going to be that somebody can do explosive, you know, blow things up at, right? Those are the companies that are the next wave that they have to see how they will evolve in your spaceport to be successful, and facilitate each of these steps. And the entities that do that well, I think, will be more successful in spaceport with the spaceports and the spaceport territory process program that they have with the Department of Transportation in Florida. Does a great job of that. This is us getting ready to test out at the launch and landing facility. This is the RLB hangar. The facilities both on, you know, the most amazing runways and a great hangar right there. We are putting a lot of our facilities at the Space Coast Spaceport. I think this is one of the hidden gems. I don't know how this secret was kept so long. It's really an amazing set of facilities. There's a dock right nearby, so it's multimodal. There's rail and rail transfer literally right at the spaceport. Of course, there's air access. US 1 and 95 are a stone's throw away. So it really sets up the infrastructure side. How do you get stuff in and out easily? It's right at the NASA Causeway, so it has fantastic access to NASA and, of course, the launch and landing facility. So that multimodal is a big part of our decision here. Also being independently operated. Sorry, federal ranges, these guys move like lightning fast. When I need something, their infrastructure and ops guys move incredibly quick. I have in fact found myself catching up with them. So that independent operation, allowing them to move quickly, is a pretty significant deciding factor, I have to say, in figuring out where to be. To tell you where we are right now, this is a great example of getting a company in and moving them along. We're using a hangar that's at the facility for administration and studios, mission control. We're using a wing of their admin building. We have some dedicated entrance space, and we have about 9,000 square feet of laboratory space. Right off the bat, that gets us going. We're actually building capsule, we're doing design, we're doing laboratory work with avionics and thermal control, right? So they were able to really move this out. We started off actually at the launch and landing facility with an operations facility there with lab and office space. So between the two spaceports, we got off to a great start, and we actually have active facilities at both spaceports. They're just across the river from each other. But it's a great way to expand. We have a lot of flexibility in how we expand because you're always discovering new things that have to happen. The phase balloon factory for the balloon is, the contract's been let, and we expect that to be up probably April. Part of what made this go so fast is they had a nice big piece of concrete that was already impermeable, so environmental licensing went very quickly. So this is another great example of there is infrastructure in place. Space Florida supports the development. The spaceport can move quickly in their own decision space. And what's also happening here, interestingly, is that the companies and entities like the fixed space operations here also cooperate and help each other. So there's a community of companies here that facilitate growth and get the vision of what's going on. And then we're also starting planning on phase 2, which is the big factory. But you can see a campus forming, and that sort of campus-type facility creates great flexibility for us to learn and discover and grow. So I can't say enough about how the infrastructure was really one of the key aspects of the assignment in Florida and the great work that Space Florida does. This is getting ready for the, just about before the launch we did in June from the Space Coast Spaceport, and a great cooperation with the FAA really moved things quickly to get this done. And this is an image from that flight. And of course, you can't talk about any of this without talking about your team and bragging of it. This is all teamwork. So I always put the slide up just to remind us that it's all about the people, all about the team, which is also partly about location. These spaceports are all in a location where there's schools and infrastructure and the people and workforce as well. So this is the fundamentals of the vision that we're putting together. But in the end, really, it's all about giving this experience, and a large part of this experience at the beginning and end is at the spaceport. So names matter, infrastructure, accessibility, all of that really does matter. Because if you're going to fly somebody from a spaceport, they're going to go to their friends and say, I'm flying from X spaceport. That name is really is important. And so I'd just like to take some questions as a sort of case study example of what worked and was important for us, or any broader questions you have about the industry in general.
Hi, how are you? I'm looking at a spaceport in a landlocked area. Would you be able to splash down on a lake?
If it was a really big lake. So for us, what splashdown, we probably need something like a 50, 40 odd mile radius of water. So what splashing down does for us is it allows the terminal phase of the flight to be indeterminate. We can be slightly off in how quickly we come down or where the winds are blowing, and it's fine because we're splashing down in water. The problem with balloon-based or parachute-based land landings from the stratosphere is getting to a fixed location, and we worked really hard on that problem. And finally gave up, and so they said, well, you can splash down anywhere in the water. And so like, oh yeah. So many years of work trying to make parachutes work out the window, but that's why. So we, in the flight we did, we came down about, I think, 15 miles from sort of the initial estimate. But the trick was, can you get the recovery ship? Can you move your splashdown location to where you're going to go? We wanted the recovery ship to be a kilometer downwind, between half a kilometer downwind of the splash location. We were exactly 800 meters downwind of the splash location. So it gets very accurate towards the end. That's what we use for.
Any other questions?
Thank you. Obviously, there's a variety of different tourism options that are becoming available, Blue Origin, Virgin, and others. But I think I was most intrigued with Space Perspectives in the gondola where you said there was a bar. And with that, it sort of piqued my interest at that altitude. Do you, this is a stupid question, but it's been puzzling me. Do you have to have a cover on a drink? Or is the gravity, will the drink float out of the glass?
So we are still in the gravity field. We're sort of, thank you for the question. Imagine that we're in essence like an ice cube floating on water. The balloon is sort of floating on top of the Earth's atmosphere. So we're still subject to the Earth's gravity. We're not going so fast in order to keep missing the Earth. But we're a bit farther away. It turns out we're a bit less than 1% less gravity. But you are in a normal gravity field. And the bar, we say all real spaceships have a bar.
Anything else for Tabor? Thank you very much.
I think there's one quick fellowship video.
You will rise, floating to the edge of space. until all you feel is wonder. A thrilling 6-hour journey carried by decades of aerospace expertise. A view few have experienced. A journey that will change you. Welcome aboard. Space Perspective.